Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Ruslan G YouTube channel, and in today's video we're going to be talking about a little known company called Airbnb. And if you've used Airbnb before, you probably know that it's an absolutely fantastic option for when you travel and you just don't want to stay in an old crusty hotel, and instead you'd rather stay at someone's home or apartment that's nice and cozy. You know this is a personable experience, so for you it's going to be a lot more pleasant. And I've done Airbnbs before and I absolutely love them. I actually told myself that from now on I will never go to a hotel or a motel unless something happens where, a family member books a trip or something like that. But overall, I just prefer to stay at an Airbnb, and they are planning to IPO in 2020 or possibly at the beginning of 2021. Before that happens, I wanted to talk to you guys about my strategy, my personal opinion on how I'm going to execute this and make the most bang for my buck. And we're also going to be talking about, should you go ahead and buy Airbnb stock as soon as it IPOs? So without further ado, let's dive right into this one. All right, welcome back. So the very first thing that I wanted to mention, and this happens to be very similar with most IPOs, history is going to teach us a little bit of a lesson that most IPOs, when they come out onto the market, they actually drop in value. And why does that happen, right? Because you would think that it enters the market, more people can now buy up shares. But in most cases, because these owners have been owning and holding onto this company for so long without the ability to sell their shares, they now have an opportunity to liquidate their positions to other investors. So in most cases, like Uber, Snapchat, Lyft, and Upwork, and many, many others, they have been in a position where as soon as they IPO, their stock price drops because these investors that have been in the market for quite some time decide to sell off their shares. And of course, as shares fall, as people actually realize that this company is worth quite a bit of money, they realize that it might be a good time to start buying in. So eventually they level off. Now that it's at a low price, might even start buying it back, which then turns it into a climb back to the original highs at IPO. So that's what usually happens when companies IPO. Like I said, those are just some of the names mentioned earlier: Snapchat, Uber, Lyft, Upwork. But if you look even further back in history, Google, Apple, and Microsoft all had a very similar process they had to go through. These are called growing pains, and this is just normal for IPOs. So I want to talk about why I think that even if this happens, why I think Airbnb is going to do so stupendously in the market over the long term. So they're planning to IPO at a net worth of about $40 billion, which sounds like a big number, but when you compare them to other tech giants like Netflix, like Amazon, like Facebook, they're actually going at this at a relatively low figure for what their potential could be. And in my opinion, they could easily 10x into the $400 billion category, which is almost a $500 billion business. And I get it, it's huge, but the potential I think is out there, especially when you think about all the hotels, all the motels that might go out of business or might be lacking in customers, which then might put them out of business in the short to long term. So if you think about it, if a lot of people want that personable experience that I was talking about earlier at the beginning of the video, they don't want to pay ridiculous prices up for a nice hotel. They'd rather just get their own apartment. They're only in town for maybe a weekend, a week, or maybe even a month. But in most cases, you can actually book an Airbnb for just that. So if you're planning to stay only a week or only a month or only a couple days, you can book exactly what you want. And the beautiful thing is you have options. Every major city has hundreds of Airbnbs that are open to the public, and people can go and you can book, you can see exactly what you're gonna pay. So you can actually know with confidence that your trip is gonna cost this much versus all the things that you might end up buying being at the hotel. You're gonna pay a valet to park your car. You're gonna go and pay a cleaning fee. You're gonna tip every single person that cleans the place. You're gonna maybe gamble, and since you're walking through the casino floor all the time, you might even throw a couple bucks in the slot machine. Overall, Airbnb as a company has a lot of room to grow, even from that $40 billion valuation, in my opinion, especially if we are considering them as a tech giant that they are. And besides Airbnb as a service that rents properties to others, they actually have what's called the experiences section, which is a new feature that has a lot more room to grow and a lot of potential, because when you go and visit There's places and attractions you can visit while you're in town that Airbnb can offer to you, and you might be intrigued to click on one or two and even book something outside of your scope of that trip. And the beautiful thing is Airbnb is able to make a little bit of money off that as well. So for you as an investor, that is a win-win. And also as a person using Airbnb, that is also a win-win for you, because you might experience something you've never experienced before, and Airbnb is what makes that possible. So last but not least, I wanted to talk to you guys about my strategy about how to enter into something like this, where it has a very unique buying opportunity, right? Because Airbnb hasn't been on the public markets like a lot of those companies that are tech giants, and they come onto the market, they have their crash, but there's always a certain point where I decide, hey, I want to buy into this company. And for me, certain companies like this, you only get a few options. So what I'm gonna start doing, and this is not investment advice, but this is something that I think has worked for me countless of times in countless IPOs, ICOs, all types of things, all types of situations where something enters into the market and I wanna get a piece of it. What I decide to do, and this is what I'm gonna do this time with Airbnb specific, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna buy very, very small amounts slowly. So over a week, maybe I'll buy $1, maybe I'll buy 10, maybe I'll buy 20, but I'm gonna buy small amounts of this stock as it comes onto the market. And then I'm gonna watch the price. And if it goes sky high, great, I made some money. But if it starts to drop, like history has shown that other companies typically do, if it starts to fall, I will continue to buy my small amounts. But if it has what is normal for an IPO, which is typically a 50, 60, and in some cases 70, 80% drop, that is when I'm going to increase my buy size. So instead of buying, let's say I was buying 10 or 50 bucks a week, I'm gonna increase that maybe 2 or 4x, because I know I'm getting the stock at a discount. And as history has shown us, but let's just use Snapchat as an example for this. And you can actually watch my video where I talk about the top 5 companies that made me 500% up here. But essentially, Snapchat IPO'd around $24, crashed all the way to $5, and then now is back up to that same $24 value. So if you can get in over time and cost average yourself in, and even buy a little bit extra when it gets down to these lows, whatever they might be, when it gets back to that $40 billion valuation, or hopefully to that $400 billion valuation, like I think it will in the next 5 or 10 years, you and I are gonna make a lot of money. But again, this is not investment advice. This is just what I plan to do with this opportunity that's in front of us. And hopefully you join me on my journey to health, wealth, and happiness. Go hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, if this is your first time to the channel. And if you found this valuable at all, go smash that like button, because it helps out the channel and it helps you get access to more content like this. It allows me to make a lot more content like this for everybody watching, including yourself. So hopefully you enjoyed it. And without further ado, I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out.